Well, hello there. My name is Eric, the host of Paranormal Highway. Today's interview is with Tex from Tex Front Porch. A lot of you know him as Bigfoot channel, which his channel talks more than just Bigfoot. They're not a channel that's afraid to talk about any subject out there. But the question was, why does Tex do it? What made him want to do the research? And what's intriguing about what I've heard is, yes, it has something to do with the Bigfoot, but if you haven't heard of the Dogman, Dogman is another, I don't even know exactly what a Dogman is. I know it's a type of a Bigfoot. Some people say Dogman's more towards a werewolf versus a Bigfoot. And, I really, truly don't know. And what's intriguing to me is, what is the Dogman? Now, Tex has a story that has encountered him when he was 16 years old with the Dogman. And I don't know exactly if his story is going to give me the answers that I'm looking for. Because there's two questions here, right? Is Bigfoot real? Now, for myself, that I had experience when I was a kid with the Bigfoot, I believe he's real. And I know Tex believes Bigfoot is real. But is Dogman the same as Bigfoot? Are they the same? Are they not? Are they different? And what kind of story does he have that changed his life to where he wants to learn more on what happened to him? So kick back, grab some popcorn, grab some coffee, grab some soda, whatever it takes. And what I do here on this channel is I bring Tex up uninterrupted. He tells us his story uninterrupted. And then from his story, I will ask him 3 to 4 questions, and I'll give you my final thoughts on his story. So, going forward, I'm going to bring Tex up.
Howdy. Some of you may have heard the story. Some of you may not. But this is what opened my eyes to what else is out there. It happened when I was 16, and I'm old enough to part dust, folks. So that was in 82, I believe. As many years as it's been, and it's been a day or two, it still never fails when I really get down to the nitty and gritty and get it in depth on when I'm talking about the encounter. It never fails to kind of rattle me a little bit. But anyway, let's get into it, because this when you talk about life-changing ordeals, this was mine. As far as the whole cryptid and paranormal thing goes, because I was just, like everybody else, I just thought it was Hollywood, Lon Chaney running around the woods with the old gypsy woman. This stuff is real, and it's out there. I was raised up just an old country boy, barefoot country kid over here in North Texas. It wasn't nothing for me from the age of 12. If I remember right, that's when Daddy got my first shotgun for me. It wasn't nothing for me to take off and go camping, just me and the dog, for a couple of days. As long as I told Mom and Daddy where I was going and, where I'd be, and when I'd get back, they were fine with it. Daddy had taught me well. I ran trap lines, I went fishing, I went hunting, the whole 9 yards. I had been on one of these little hunting trips, just a day trip, out to my favorite area. And I'll tell you a little bit about that area a little later. I was walking home. We had 20 acres at the time. And we had a gravel road that bordered the side of our place. On the left side, if you're walking towards the main road, And then the main road crossed in front of the top of our place, and then our driveway was on the opposite side, and it went all the way down from the top to the bottom because our house set back about midways down. So I was walking up the gravel road from the place where I was hunting. Had a couple of rabbits on my belt, and 410 with no shells. And I was just about to jump we had a 5-strand barbed wire fence around our place. And I was just about to jump over the fence and make a beeline to the house, when I go the long way. And this thing, we lived down in a valley, so a little small valley. So the sun had went down below the hill on my west, which was my left, but it hadn't went down past the horizon. So it was plenty of daylight, and there was a white gravel road. There was going to be no mistaking what I'm fixing to tell you about. This critter busted out of the brush on my left-hand side and ran across the road in front of me, and then dove over a barbed wire fence. Now, that in itself don't sound like much. But the thing about it is, when he busted out of the brush on my left-hand side, he was on 2 legs. He was about 7.5 feet tall, and he was built, and he was definitely a male. He was covered in not thick hair. It was almost straggly. It was thin, and you could see the charcoal-like skin under it. You could see the muscles. The hair would hang down about 4 inches off his arm, And the same thing on his jaws. His cheeks, almost like my beard, but not as thick. He had I called it a mane at the time. I'm still not too sure what it is. But started at his hairline. He had real thick hair, real long hair, starting his hairline down his back of his head, on his shoulders, and down his back in a V. Now, this critter's legs, his thighs were like tree trunks. I mean, they were huge, but he was barrel chested, narrow hipped. His arms wasn't like really huge, but he was cut. I often say that if I'd had my choice, I'd have rather run into a Bigfoot. Because back then, the term Dogman hadn't even been coined yet. The only thing I knew to call it was a werewolf. He didn't have the out of proportion huge head that you hear a lot, but it was definitely canine. It didn't have the long, narrow wolf snout. It was a shorter, blunter snout, almost like a Saint Bernard. He was salt and pepper cutter, mostly pepper, but he did have some salt in his coat. I don't remember him having a tail. I could sit down and draw it, and every time I draw it, I don't draw it with a tail. He had human-esque hands, but they weren't human. They were human-esque. had, for a lack of a better term, I guess you'd call them claws, but they weren't overly long. They were like just really long fingernails, but they were black. A lot of people say when they talk about these critters that they've got backward facing legs. They got, the hawk, what they call a hawk. And I think a lot of people are misidentifying that, because I thought about this for a long time. And what it looked like to me was what people are calling the hawk is just his heel. Because this one had narrow feet. He was up on his toes. And that heel came back and made it look like a hawk. But it was his heel. He was just up on his toes. His ears were set down kind of low on his head, not way up high like the German Shepherds and, the Anubis things you see and all that kind of stuff. But they were pinned back. Or, an old dog or a horse, they'll get upset and they'll pin them old ears back. The image that I've got frozen in my mind is when he's about midway across the road in front of me, and he was only about 25 feet away. He turned his head and he kind of growled at me. But I didn't get that, a lot of people describe it as dogman sickness. I didn't get that. Now, don't get me wrong, folks. It was an underwear changing moment. But I didn't get that sense of dread or anything like that. It scared the hell out of me. But the thing, I was going to say this weird thing, but this whole thing is weird. You don't believe me. I understand. I wouldn't believe me either. These things are not supposed to exist, but they do. And so does a lot of other stuff. But what stood out to me, one thing that stood out to me was when he growled at me, he kind of had his mouth about halfway open. The lips furrowed back a little bit. He didn't have a mouthful of gnarly looking teeth. He just had canine looking teeth. His gums and his tongue was pink and black mottled. And the reason that stood out to me is, if nothing else, that told me right there that he was canine. Because there's an old wives' tale that if you're looking for a smart dog, get one with black in his mouth. Now, a lot of people will say when they see these things, they've got red glowing eyes, they got gold or yellow eyes or amber eyes or anything like that. I think that's eye shine they're seeing. God, I hope it is. This one, most dogs have brown eyes. That's what it looked like. Just an old dog's eyes. Anyway, he run across the road in front of me and didn't jump. He dove over the fence. And out yonder we have what we call love grass. And it gets up to about 3, sometimes 4 feet high. And that part of the pasture was covered in that. He dove over, and when he hit the ground, he went down to all fours. It was a very smooth transition. There wasn't no popping of tendons or anything like that. Real smooth. He went down on all fours. I saw the grass move for about 10, 15 yards, and he was gone. Now, at this point, I had a decision to make. And I know this is a long, drawn-out story, folks, but it happened in a matter of seconds. So did the decisions. I could either follow him into the tall grass or take the long way home. I wasn't going to follow him into the long grass. That wasn't going to happen. So I took the long way. Now that took me up the road, across the front of our place, and back down our driveway. The whole walk is pretty much a blur, except for I remember turning the first corner, and I remember walking in the door at the house. And the reason I remember, I think that when I hit the corner, I thought to myself, I'm sitting here with a gun with no damn ammo in it. I got basically a 3-foot club with me. Maybe I'll get a swing at him before he chews me up. The next real memory I have is walking in the back door of the house. I walked in the back door. My mama had a rule that no guns were allowed in the kitchen. But I walked down the hallway, pretty much collapsed in the kitchen chair, put my gun on the kitchen table. My mom was standing in the kitchen. I don't remember what she was doing. She was, washing dishes, cooking, whatsoever. I don't know. And so she turned around. I think she was fixing to scold me, for the gun. She looked at me and she says, "Oh my God, what's wrong with you? You're white as a ghost." And I tried to tell her. I couldn't speak. My sister lived about 40 yards away, same property. She called my sister. She come over, and it took them better part of an hour to calm me down enough where I could talk and tell them what had happened. And when I did, they didn't tell me I was lying. They didn't tell me I was crazy. They knew I was scared. But they tried to reason it out. Well, maybe, you saw a wolf. Maybe you saw a big dog. Maybe you saw what we called them hobos at the time. And it just scared you and your imagination took over. But I stuck to my guns throughout the years. And after time, they came to accept what I was telling them, And it took me probably about 6 to 8 months. I was at that point, I was scared. I didn't want to go anywhere. I didn't hardly venture away from the house at all. If I had to go down, if I went down to feed the animals, I went loaded for bear. If I was over at my sister's house, or I had to go over to my sister's house or whatever, and it was dark, it was at a dead run. And we had what a lot of people call booger lights, which is nothing more than a street lamp. But that's all the light we had, outside. So that went on for about, like I said, 6 to 8 months. And then, I guess about after 6 months, I started the whole being scared thing, because I was thinking about this all the time. What was this thing? Why didn't it kill me? Had every opportunity. And it came to realization to me that he didn't want to, because it had the chance. So I started going back out, baby steps, little at a time, And after about 8 months, I was back to doing what I used to do, because frankly it made me mad after a point, because I felt like I was being bullied. And there's one thing about me, I can't stand a bully. So I decided I wasn't going to let this thing keep me from doing what I love to do. So I started going back out. I guess it was about 8-10 months later. I was gallivanting around. I was going back out to my favorite hunting spot. Now, my spot that I hunted was one half of an old boy's property that I had permission to go on, and that's how it worked out yonder in the country. A lot of y'all, if you've been raised out in the country, you get permission, to go on somebody's land. You're their eyes and ears of their place, because you're going to see places. If they're big places, you're going to see see places that they normally don't go look at. They don't want to. And if there's a problem, you bring it to their attention, or you tell them, hey, I found this, I fixed it, down fence, whatever, or you go up and you tell them, hey, I found this, but I can't fix it by myself. They come down, you help them fix it. That's just how it was. And this old boy had about 1,200 acres. One half of it he had in hay, and the other half he hadn't done nothing with, and it was thick. It was so thick that you had to travel the game trails. Sometimes you were down on your hands and knees doing it. But the way I got to this place, there was a deadfall that we hadn't took care of yet. It fell over the fence. And I'd just scamper up that deadfall and jump over and go take the game trails. You'd be walking down through the game trails, and then it would open up into a clearing. These clearings would be anywhere just to, room enough to throw down a tent or a sleeping bag up to the footprint of a small house. And they had just that little 12-inch prairie grass in it. Maybe a scrub oak or a, mesquite tree in it. Perfect. But anyway, I was just about to go up, jump on this deadfall, and I heard something walking in the trees. Whatever it was on two legs. Now, there was a set of twins that lived on the other side of this place, and they hunted it too, and I knew them. I went to school with them. And I hollered out, I said, hey, who's out there? And it stopped. I said, David, Doug, that one of y'all? And it shifted its weight. I said, hey, if that's one of y'all, holler at me. And it shifted its weight again. I said, look, whoever that is out there, if you don't say something, I'm going to shoot. And it shifted its weight again. So I popped a round off up in the air, which in hindsight probably wasn't the smartest thing to do. That's when all hell broke loose. Whatever this was, and I'm inclined to think that it was this critter again. He come busting through the brush. I didn't wait to see. I ain't proud, I'll tell you. Old Tex took tail and he ran. Never looked back. If this thing was fixing to snatch me up, I didn't want to know about it. It was about a mile and a half or so back to the house. I never slowed down. It didn't take me quite as long to get back to doing what I was doing this time. So I wasn't going to let this thing stop me. This is twice that he'd had me in his sights. He didn't hurt me. To me, there was something to that. Now, fast forward years and years and years later, I think it was 2016, maybe 2015. I was at work. I was poking around on YouTube. I started seeing this thing called Dogman. Everybody was talking about. I found this one old gal's channel, Danielle Stedman. Her channel's defunct now, but great gal. So anyway, I was listening to some of her stuff, and I decided to call in or get a hold of her and tell her my story. And I did. Now, in the course of us talking, she started asking me questions. Did I have anything happen before my sighting or anything that was strange? I said, well, I mean, we didn't consider it strange, but there wasn't nothing to get a report of a mare that had dropped a foal, and either her or the foal got tore up or whatever, or same thing with a cow and a calf, or somebody have chickens missing or whatever. And I get a dog killed, but it always got written off on either a big cat roaming through the area or a pack of wild dogs. Seemed like there was always a story about a pack of wild dogs coming through the area. Be on the lookout. I never saw a pack of wild dogs. Never. We had a dog when he went missing. No, the only way we found him was when we started stinking. We started smelling him, and he was underneath the house. Well, Paul wasn't going to crawl under there and get him, so I got volunteered to crawl under there. And I drug him out. And when I drug him out, he was in awful shape. It looked like somebody had just held him up by the front legs and just gutted him. Now, knowing what I know now, these critters have a tendency to, when they kill a dog or something like that on somebody's property, they'll pitch them underneath a structure. I don't know why, but that seems to be the a common denominator in a lot of conversations I hear. She said, well, do you have anything else weird? I said, well, the place that was next to the place I hunted, there's these folks that either owned the place or rented it. I don't know what they did, but they didn't live there. They just had about, 6, 8 horses over there. And that's where they kept them. They'd show up on the weekends, ride their horses and stuff like that. They just up and moved out. They just came, got their horses, and left. Of course, being a nosy-ass kid, I wandered over on the property. Got to poking around a little bit. And I found almost a fully intact horse skeleton. It still had some hide left on him. And at that time, I just thought it was cool to bring a horse skull back to have it in the rock garden. Well, the thing about what was kind of weird about this horse, it wasn't scattered to the four winds like normally a dead animal would be. It was pretty much right there where he died. Everything was pretty much intact. She said, well, it may have very well been a kill site. That critter may have killed that horse, and that's why they just took the rest of the horses and left. Didn't say nothing to nobody. Never had anything else happen. Never heard anything, nothing like that. But I knew he was out there. I mean, he'd been around a lot longer than just me running into him, evidently.
A lot of people that have stories, usually their encounter is just one time. Your encounter, it's twice. Now, is it twice that, in your opinion, that this is the exact same dogman you saw the first time? Or maybe there's a chance of the second time somebody gets another kind of a dogman?
You know what? I mean, sorry. Got to shake the chili bumps off every time I get into that story. I feel, and that's the only thing the only way I can describe it. I feel it was the same critter.
And
could have it could have been a Bigfoot. It could have been another critter, but in my bones, I really feel like it was the same critter.
And in your personal opinion, do you feel that there is a major difference between a Dogman versus a Bigfoot? That they're different,
Nope.
Totally different species?
No doubt in my mind. What I saw was canine.
And did I hear you right? You said 7 foot, half tall. May I ask, like, how tall are you by any chance?
6 feet.
So 6 feet. So you could tell. I'm 6 feet myself, and I would be able to tell something 7 foot. And you said that you're almost sure that it's a male Dogman versus a female. You don't know?
It was a male.
Oh, you know it was a male.
I know. Oh yeah. I mean, he didn't have the Johnson hanging out, but you could definitely tell it was a male. You know, I mean, you see a dog walking off from you, know it's male. Let me put it that way.
And like I said, I've been taking notes here, and you said like you live like about 20 acres. So it sounds like you had 2 major sightings, not like close to each other. I mean, like you said, you had 6-8 months that you were scared, and then when you saw this twice. So this thing is territorial. It's telling me that's his home.
Yep.
Because if we can, I know you can't. It's hard to prove anything, but if you know for a fact that you feel that it is the same one, then it's definitely territorial.
Yep. I think he was living in that place that I hunted. I don't know what he was doing up there by the house. I don't know why he came running through the brush. I don't know if I woke him up, if he was taking a nap or he was eating on something. I don't know what happened, or he was just chasing something. I don't know. But he wasn't no more worried about me than the man in the moon when he run across the road.
And I feel for you, because it's one thing to go to the public. You know, it is a little bravery to be on social media to tell your story. It's one thing to say, Bigfoot's real. Everybody have heard the word Bigfoot.
Right.
But here you are telling the story. No, I don't think it was Bigfoot. I think it was Dogman. The look you must get, not saying the word Bigfoot, you're saying the word Dogman. It must be hard, because people must be looking at you like, you're crazy. Because Bigfoot was one thing, you're saying Dogman. How do you, have you had people look at you like, you're nuts with this Dogman story? You're crazy. Have you experienced a lot of people like that?
I have not only had them look at me like that, I've had them flat out tell me I was, and I've had them flat out tell me I was lying. I came out of the proverbial closet at work several years ago about this, and I figured I'm 50 some odd years old. I'm setting my career. The hell do I care, right?
You're so right about that.
It had an effect. It had an effect. I'm chastised about it almost on a daily basis, and my credibility took a hit. And that is probably the main driving reason I started doing what I'm doing, is to give people that's having these encounters that don't have anywhere to go a safe platform to share their experiences, talk about it, because a lot of people are traumatized by this stuff. I'm one of the lucky ones. Don't get me wrong, I was traumatized, but I pushed through it. There's some people that can't. They can't deal with it because it shatters your reality.
I know. No, I feel you. Eventually I'll be doing my story of the Bigfoot, but mine's a kind of a happier kind of a one. now you've been researching in a lot of different ways, doing shows. By any chance, have you ever tried to find that family who left to try to find out from them why they left? You and I have a good idea why they left. But by any chance, have you were able to contact any of that family years later?
No, I've never even tried. I didn't even know their name then. Trying to find it out now would probably be impossible.
Yeah. They probably gotta have like kids or young people like yourself that's still around, you know. But that story alone, right there, kind of tells you something that for somebody just to pick up and leave, just to pick up and leave out of nowhere and tell nobody, unless they didn't like neighbors, they kept to themselves. But most people in country towns, they know your neighbors. You know people in your town. You're more personal with people in a smaller town versus a city. I'm from a small town called Kermit outside of Fresno. In Kermit, we all knew each other. For you just to pick up and leave and never hear something from a neighbor or anybody else on why they left, something scared them to leave.
Yeah, I believe it. I believe that wholeheartedly.
And so my last question for the story is, what do you do now? Where are you at now in your life because of that? What are you doing exactly like right now, coming up like tomorrow because of what happened to you? The dog man right out there. The dog is like telling you something's outside.
Right on cue. I'm into doing the field research. Of course, I've got my channel going. And I've been actively researching since I think about 2016. And I've had 2 daylight Bigfoot sightings out there in my research area. I've had multiple, one nighttime that I can, this is totally, well, I can't say it's off topic because I've had 4 encounters, 3 sightings and 1 encounter that I can, in my mind, I can write off as a physical creature out there. Okay. Had 2 daylight sightings, 1 nighttime sighting, and then whatever it was throwing rocks at me one night. So, but the other encounters, I cannot sit here and tell you that they weren't paranormal in nature. So
we almost got a whole other story that we could do another day.
And I mean, our most recent outing that we had, we brought back handprints. You know, and I don't know if you've had a chance to see that or not on our channel, but it's there. And I mean, they're pretty damn convincing. They were all over our truck, all over both 2 trucks.
Tex, I want to thank you very much for coming on to do this interview with me and tell us your story. Something like that, I really wish upon people that they don't have to go through something like that. And for you to do that, I appreciate it. I want to thank you for jumping on here. People, I'm going to give you guys my final thoughts. And if you're not subscribed to Tex Front's Porch channel, you should. You just heard him. He's got a lot of great content, a lot of great interviews. And he's more than just talking about Dogman and Bigfoot. They talk paranormal. They'll talk UFOs. Anything that society might think differently about something, they're not afraid to talk about it. So please check out their channel, and let me give you guys my final thoughts. Their stories and their stories. You know, there's always questions about, is Bigfoot real or not? For me, personally, he's real. I have an encounter that one day I'll be doing a story where I'm going to have somebody interview me like this. I'll tell you my Bigfoot story. But this story was so unique because we're not talking Bigfoot, we're talking Dogman. You know, my story about Bigfoot is nothing like what he's been through. Just imagine, you're at your home. Your home. Your home is where the home is where the heart is. The home is where you put your hat up. That's your own home. 20 acres. You go out there and you experience this from your own home. What does that do to somebody? Not a Bigfoot, a Dogman. And 6-8 months later, you're living with this, and you're scared. You finally get the bravery to get back out there, and you have an experience again. He knows that it's the same one. Can he prove that it's the exact same one? It's impossible. But he knows. He feels it here. That same one. Twice. And then he raised up some good questions, like, why didn't he hurt him? Kill him? Dogman has a chance. Maybe he's territorial. Maybe he knew their family. He sees them and kind of wants to remind them that, I know you're there. I know you're there, Tex. Anytime I want, I'll take you away. So you better respect this land. You better respect your surroundings. You better respect us. Because I'm watching you. And I kind of heard him twice. I just can't imagine what that. Like I said, my story is nothing like that. It's hard to say with words. To go through life like that, it just. I admire Tex. Because that's hard. And to find find people to believe your story, to listen to your story. Like I said, you're not talking about a Bigfoot, you're talking about a Dogman. It's totally different than a Bigfoot. And more of a werewolf. That's got to be hard on someone. And my heart goes out to him. And anybody that has to have that kind of experience in that way, it's horrifying. And so, guys, and just remember this. If you yourself gone through a story like that, there are channels like Tex Front Porch, my channel, Bigfoot Michigan Rob, is his partner in a lot of his channels and stuff. And there are people that are willing to listen to you, and they're not going to criticize you. They're not going to say, get out of here. They're willing to listen. And let me tell you something. When you have something like that that's bottled down on your heart, inside, just talking about it helps. There are channels like his, mine, other channels that are willing to listen to you and give you a platform to tell us your story. Because we know that'll help you. So just, guys, like I said, just keep your ears open, eyes open, listen to your surroundings. Because they're there. They exist. And I hope, in a weird, strange way, you enjoy this kind of interview. I hate to say the word enjoy, because you're enjoying something that somebody had to go through fear. It's always weird to say, hope you enjoyed this. It's like enjoying something evil that happened to somebody, but I hope you enjoy it. But you guys know what I'm talking about. Hopefully this will tell you that, is this the answer for you to know they exist? That's only up to you. It's only up to you. But I appreciate you guys being here. And hopefully I'll see you guys next time on the Paranormal Highway.